Hey guys, Stefan here. Recently, R&B has been coming back, but it's back with a twist. It's back with your trap drums and your cool sound effects. I've been hearing this style from a few artists actually, from Chris Brown, your Brandys, your Ciaras, Justin Bieber. Yes, Justin Bieber. And Dark Child's responsible for that. People like Mike.WiLL.Made.It is responsible for that. And yeah, I'm liking the sound. So I thought I'll go ahead and make a track like that. Your old school R&B chords and your old school R&B feel, but with your modern trap drums and your sound effects. Okay, so as often, I'm starting first with my drums. I like to do this as it sort of sets the precedence. It sets the tempo of the track, it sets the feel of the track. I'm using Battery 4 today, and I've imported my own samples into Battery 4. I'm trying this out for the first time. So yeah, it syncs over Wi-Fi, so it's pretty good, not much lag. Sometimes you can get a bit of lag. Okay, so you must have heard the lag there, but no worries, we can deal with that. We just highlight it and hit Q for the quantizing. So a very iconic characteristic of what you would call a trap beat is the rolling hi-hats. Now how I did this is I used the Arpeggiator built in Logic Pro X. To access this Arpeggiator, it's simple. Literally you click, well, let's remove this one so you can see. You click on MIDI effects, first one down, Arpeggiator, and I put the rate to 1/32, which is 1/32. I think that's how you would say it, 1/16, 1/32. I don't know, you tell me. Anyways, so that's what I did, which in turn took my hi-hat from this to this. So with that now, I recorded it in. Okay, so that was my first roll. And then I added another hi-hat with another arpeggiator, but this time I made it 1/8 triplet for the rate. So this sounded like that sounded like this. Okay, so you can hear what I did there. I played the hi-hat, but every time a roll came up, I stopped playing. And then when the roll finished, I came back in again. So that creates the illusion that it's actually one hi-hat doing all three parts. And what you can actually do, if you want to control all three hi-hats together, you can then highlight all three hi-hats, press Command Shift plus D, and then create a summon stack. This summon stack, you can name it hi-hat, and now you can control all three hi-hats on one fader. I then added a clap, so that sample's already loaded in. Wonderful. Okay, so after that, I then added a open hi-hat to play on every first kick. Alright, lastly, for the drums, I then like I heard in a lot of these R&B joints now, a lot of like sound effects, and I thought it sounded pretty cool. So I found one. Yeah, that's the one, and I added that into the beat. So what you can do now for the drums to stay organized, and also for your mixing process, you can highlight all the drums and do Command, Shift, and D again, and then create a summon track. Call that drums. Right and click and add a pretty picture. That's what I like to do. And then just close that up. There's your drums out of the way, finished. Okay, so after the drums were finished, it was then time for me to work on the chord progression. Now, I've been listening to a lot of these tracks that I previously mentioned, your Chris Browns, your Ciaras, and so on and so forth, and a lot of the chord sounds that they were using were very airy and modern. It wasn't the usual like EPs they use for R&B and so on and so forth. So I found this pad that I like. Okay, so once I found my sound, I then came up with a chord progression reminiscent of the old school R&B sort of sound: A minor, F major, D minor, and then a G sharp diminished. So once I had done that, I then highlighted it and quantized as usual. But with this one, what I like to do now is just to make sure there's no gaps in my chords. I didn't want any gaps in my chords, so I highlighted all the notes, or Command A, and then right and clicked on a note, and then I went to trim note end to following notes force legato, and then keep. So what this does now, it just stretches out all your notes to the beginning of each chord. So it works almost like a sustain pedal, but without the sustain pedal MIDI information. And also, if you notice, I have this velocity processor up. This is another MIDI effects, so you can click on the MIDI effects section, and right at the bottom you have a velocity processor. And what this does is that it controls the velocity of your sound. But why do this? Well, firstly, let's look at velocity. What is velocity? Velocity is the intensity of the note, how hard you hit it. Soft, hard. And I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a different timbre, a different sound that's processed when you, one, hit it soft, and when you, two, hit it hard. And you don't always want this with your sounds. Say I'm playing a chord progression, I want all the chords to sound the same. If I'm playing them at different velocities, each chord will sound slightly different. So what I did, I grabbed the velocity processor and I set the value to 83. So what that actually does, it means that no note can go over the value of 83 in terms of velocity. This keeps my chord progression soft, because I don't want it sounding harsh and hard at times. It keeps it level, almost works like a compressor. So I use this velocity processor with all my synths to keep every note sounding even and perfect. When you're making pop, and I say pop in the broader sense of just popular music, there's that element of perfection that is required, and this velocity processor helps achieve that for me. So once I had done that, I then added a harp. Sounds pretty, doesn't it? if I do say so myself. That comes about from just the natural sound of the harp, but I'm trying to emulate how a harpist would play it. I don't know the technical term, so if you know the technical term, please put it in the comment section below. I would love to know what it actually is, and I'm sure my other viewers would like to know what it's called. Wicked. So that's the harp there. I then added a bass just to glue it all together, you know. So I wanted the kick to be prominent in this track. The kick and that high hi-hat, because that like gives it its groove, that gives it this ride, you know, and the swagger about this track. So the bass is something that I needed to be underneath. So I chose a nice subby bass that will sit nicely under the kick and would stay in the background. With that same thing in mind, I then came to the piano, and with the piano I decided to play the piano but right at the top octave of the keyboard. Well, it's not the top octave, quite high up anyway on the keyboard. And the reason I did this is because I had a lot of sounds in the low frequency and the mid frequency range already, and there was just no more room for anything like that. And if I was to play the piano in the mid range, it would have been a thing where when I came to mix it, I would have had to EQ out a whole lot of that bass. So I'm realizing and I'm learning that think like a mixer. Think about how each sound fits in with each other. There's no need for me to play the bass notes on the piano because there's so much bass going on in the song already, you know. So just some food for thought that I've come across lately. So with the piano again, I'm using it's the same progression but in versions. So for me, those were the main elements for the track. That was the track now, and it was then a case of arranging the track. So I came up with a basic arrangement of verse, pre-chorus, chorus. So what I was able to do was duplicate what I made twice. So now I had 3. For the verse, I took out the hi-hat, I took out the piano, and I left everything else. Then for the pre-chorus, I took out the hi-hat also. But then listening to it, it just didn't lift and build in the way that I had hoped. So I knew there was one element still lacking, and that was something to rise the track. And I searched through my synths, my soft synths, and I found this this synth, and I call it Riser because it was literally just rising my track. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, please share this if it's helped you in any way. If you have any questions, please put it in the comment section below. If you have any tips for me, any tricks that you think would help this track, please say. Let's get a conversation going, and yeah, happy producing.